Communication is at the heart of work in the nonprofit sector. Whether in our relationships with donors, sponsors, staff, or those we serve, clear communication with information the recipient sees as useful is essential. In this episode, Lynn O'Connor Vos, the new CEO of the Muscular Dystrophy Association, will be sharing more about communications and the ways the MDA is better serving its clients.
Welcome to the Social Good Instigators Podcast, where your host, Kirsten Bullock, interviews leaders of social entrepreneurship ventures who share what's working. Please add the podcast to your favorite RSS feed or iTunes. Now, let's get on with the show.
Hi, Lynn. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Hi. How are you?
Great.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. We're happy to have you. Lynn O'Connor Vos is the president and CEO of the Muscular Dystrophy Association, which is a 65-year-old organization serving individuals with different muscular diseases. She has a strong background in nonprofit board work. She founded an organization called Text for Baby that helped with baby development. She spent time as a nurse, time after that in pharmaceuticals, and then spent the rest of her career in marketing and communications, and really doing a lot of great work with for-profit organizations, but also helping some nonprofits along the way. So I know that she'll have some great insights to share with us today. Lynn, to kick us off, could you share a few words about the Muscular Dystrophy Association and what you're up to?
Again, thank you for including me today. I joined the Muscular Dystrophy Association about 4 or 5 months ago, so I'm a relative newbie. But it's an organization that has been around for 65 years, as you said earlier. And we're an umbrella organization representing over 43 neuromuscular diseases, including ALS. What differentiates us is we support research and have supported over $1 billion worth of research over the last 65 years. We're the world's leading expert on muscle due to all that research. And we've also invested over $350 million just in research on ALS alone. We are a research organization, and we also are dedicated to care centers. And so we accredit and have clinics at over 150 leading care centers in the country. And we also have a staff on board and individuals who work in the clinics at 150 centers. So that puts us in a very unique position where we actually are impacting care as well as research. And then the other very amazing thing about MDA is we run camps. So over 4,000 kids a year go to our summer camps. And those camps are not just recreational experiences. Many kids refer to them as life-changing, and in fact, the most important week of the year. And those camps train kids to actually be better self-advocates and take better care of themselves. And for the first time, since this is rare diseases, the camps give kids an opportunity to mingle and interact with kids who are just like them, which is very exciting.
That is neat.
So that's kind of us in a nutshell. What's exciting right now about MDA versus, let's say, 10 years ago or even 3 years ago, for the first time ever, we're discovering the genes that actually cause these diseases, and the therapies are coming along quickly. We have over 30 drugs in the pipeline. 4 or 6 drugs were launched last year for various conditions, including spinal muscular atrophy. So for me, having spent my entire career in healthcare communications and pharmaceuticals, this is just the most perfect position to be in to be able to facilitate the approval, or not approval necessarily, but just facilitate education and access to better therapies so our kids and our families have better outcomes.
Mm-hmm. So what's been your biggest surprise since coming on board?
I think when I was thinking about taking this position, the thing that was the most surprising and continues to surprise and delight me every day are the sponsors. So we have a list of very loyal sponsors that amaze many other organizations out there. The firefighters have been with MDA for 65 years, doing Fill the Boot and running boot camps and helping kids at camp. Harley-Davidson has been around for several decades, Citgo, and a number of very strong retailers, including Kroger's and Price Chopper. And you probably have heard about our big Shamrock program. So we have, even though we are a health organization and a disease specific organization, MDA, most of our fundraisers come from the community. And that all is because Jerry Lewis really put MDA on the map. You know, with the first telethon in 1966, he took on the cause. He brought kids on television, and he also brought firefighters on TV. And so, you know, to the credit of the MDA and Jerry Lewis specifically, this was an innovative move back in the 60s to come up with the first telethon. And it was everybody, since I've started this job, it's so hilarious. Everyone has a story about the telethon. Everybody remembers the carnivals or sometime they sat with their grandparents over Labor Day weekend, waiting to go to school on that Tuesday. You know, again, it's just remarkable and surprising how widely known our organization is, even though these are rare diseases. Jerry really made it clear to everyone out there that they should join us and help to find a cure. So it's a shame that he's not here right now, but his family certainly is watching, and many of the sponsors are so excited by the fact that after all those years of fundraising, we're finally seeing cures and game-changing therapies coming to market.
Mm-hmm. And I would imagine that that's one thing that helps the relationships from going stale, because after so many years, it could easily feel old for some people. So do you think that excitement is overcoming that?
Yeah, again, what's so amazing is the commitment people have had throughout the years, even though there weren't cures. But I think what's really at play here is these children and families that are struck with these diseases are very special people. I mean, they are resilient. These are very tough diseases to deal with every day. And they really become, you know, almost role models for their community. And I think that's why the firefighters are so committed. But you're right. I mean, right now we are able to tell a very hopeful story and really encourage more people to join us in the fight. Because once we discover the genes, the goal here is to get therapies developed quickly. And also the challenge we have, and we're going to meet, is how can we identify patients quickly enough who have that genomic sequence that's necessary for a clinical trial so they can get in a clinical trial to get the therapy that they need to actually improve their condition. So one of the things that we're doing that I think is really unique, and again, this is on the mission side of the business or foundation, is we are establishing a data hub, and we'll have 50 leading care centers connected with an EHR, electronic medical record platform. That'll be a data hub where we will store information about patient profiles, genetic information, and when pharmaceutical companies need to do a trial, we will actually be able to help them identify patients faster. And one of the big challenges on the medical side is to make sure that there are enough centers available to actually run the trials, and that's where our partnership with IQVIA comes in. They're one of the largest clinical research organizations, and they will be helping us and partnering with us on building this platform.
Nice. So as far as moving forward, now that Jerry isn't with us anymore, what types of changes do you foresee happening in MDA? Well,
I think we need to, and are currently working on taking back Labor Day, really, you know, creating new ideas, new platforms. My experience over the last 20 years, working in a large global health advertising and communications firm, clearly digital is at the center of what we're thinking about today. How can we use technology and digital communications to create new ways to connect with potential donors, but also to connect our community to all the research that's going on? So you're going to, you know, kind of watch this space. You'll see that we're going to incrementally change and maybe in some cases transform some of the new platforms that we're going to use to broaden the appeal for MDA. And again, try to drive as many funds as we can so we can put those back into research and the care centers that make a meaningful difference in these families' lives.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, back in the day, I mean, I think the challenge is great. It's kind of fun. You know, we we know that there was an unprecedented situation in '66 when someone decided to do a telethon. How can we beat that today? And so one of the things we're doing as an organization is, bringing other communication partners in to help us get the cover off the ball, come up with something really great. We kind of talk about the fact that we are a movement in motion, and we have 100,000 firefighters, 100,000 volunteers, lots of Harley dealers, and lots of people working on our behalf. So the opportunity is to kind of mobilize the community with a new platform, and we'll be working on that.
Mm-hmm. And you talked about transforming things, working with the new platform. Is part of that helping to connect with perhaps the younger generations, millennials, Gen X?
Yeah, happy you brought that up. It's one of my favorite topics, which is millennials. And in fact, when I started with the foundation a few months ago, when we were talking to all of our sponsors, that's what's keeping a lot of companies up at night. We know that social responsibility is absolutely critical for companies. We know that if they can't demonstrate social responsibility to their employees, who are primarily millennials, then those millennials might not be as thrilled to stay with the company. So we as nonprofits have a very unique opportunity at this moment to really go to companies and make our cause relevant enough, maybe offer volunteer opportunities and ways that we can mobilize corporations and the employees of the corporation to work with and join our cause. And in doing that, the company gets some halo effect as well. So I think there's a win-win out there, a good, solid organization doing good that can provide the opportunity to include employees in the movement will only seek to please both sides, both the companies as well as the nonprofit. And I would say coming into this position, that would be one of the things that I really wanted to think about and focus on, and that is, having worked in the nonprofit world as a board member for many years, it's very important for us to go out and ask what we can do for our sponsors, not just ask what they can do for us. And so there's always an opportunity to kind of say, okay, here's what we need, and here's what you need, and here's the win-win. And if we can do that, and we know, given your question, millennials want their companies to be known for more social responsibility, there's probably a very great program we can develop together.
Mm-hmm.
So millennials also just obviously are more digital, in some cases digitally native. The old traditional direct mail is probably not going to work. The opportunity to present the chance to join something and engage in an experience is going to be more what millennials are looking for. And so this is a very important area of fundraising today. Tweaking and understanding your customer and your potential fundraising volunteer and making that experience the right experience for them so they continue with us.
Mm-hmm. And as far as engaging millennials, from what I hear, they're really looking for different things than older generations. So what are some of the mistakes that you see nonprofits making when they're trying to engage millennials? Well,
again, it's this whole idea, it's not all about us. Mm-hmm. You've got to go out and understand the insights of the audience. You need to ask millennials, quite frankly, any customer, but certainly millennials, what are you interested in? And then you tweak the conversation to be much more about them and their needs rather than your needs. And, many organizations make the mistake of thinking that it's a one-size-fits-all. Millennials are interested in themselves and and they want to know that whoever's speaking with them has an understanding of what their needs are. This would be the case if you were trying to hire a millennial or keep them in your office and keep them working for you, or if you're going and asking them to join you in a movement. So, I think the transformation to using more digital and online fundraising is being done very well by some newer organizations. And I think the more established organizations are catching up. And certainly that's on the top of our list to enhance our digital fundraising capability. I think the other thing that we're seeing, just spontaneous DIY, do-it-yourself fundraisers out there. And typically these are millennials. We had someone last summer who climbed Mount Kilimanjaro because he lost his dad, and he donated the money to MDA. You may have seen a documentary called I'll Push You that was put together with two individuals, Justin and Patrick. Patrick's a great caregiver. Justin suffers from MOMA, one of the diseases. And he pushed him on the trail in Spain for 500 miles. And that became a really interesting opportunity for a fundraiser, really demonstrating the resilience of two people and the characteristics of today's caregiver, and having, again, a movement perhaps that they can join. So DIY is something that you see many, many organizations trying to develop better platforms to let millennials know what they can do to fundraise. Whether it's SoulCycle or Equinox, riding or taking on your own challenge. These are the opportunities that they're going to resonate towards.
Right. And there's certainly a lot of opportunities that I've seen there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Race for a Cure is a good example.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, my daughter just hit me up this morning to see if I would sponsor her for that.
Yeah, we've
for
got
Memorial Sloan Kettering.
Got a girl at church. She's involved in that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there's opportunities out there, and it sounds like a lot of nonprofits, we just need to look for them.
Yep. We need to think differently, and we need to ask our audience. I think that, the whole idea of doing a little more research, really, homing in on what the needs are and why someone would want to join and stay with your cause.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of it is to stay with. I think you can get people to do something once, but how does this cause become so relevant that they stay with you? And when you think about, our longevity with the firefighters, how do we bring that same kind of longevity to a group of millennials? I don't have the answer yet, but certainly that's what I think every nonprofit organization is thinking about, bringing someone in early and having them stay with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And in most most of the medical situations I've worked in, whether it's multiple myeloma or the JED Foundation, and also MDA, traditionally it's, someone in your family or it hit you personally and then you got engaged, and not all these people stay. So you have to figure out how to continually make your cause relevant to their lives. Right.
And a lot of that, I would suppose, is through communications.
Absolutely. Yep. And we don't do enough communications. I talk about communication as the cure, but it's true. It's absolutely true. I mean, how many organizations do not stick with ongoing communication with anybody who's ever expressed interest in their foundation? It's our responsibility to continually communicate so that people know what we're up to, so that we have the opportunity to maybe ask at some point to join us in the cause. It doesn't happen overnight. It has to be a continuous and ongoing communication. And that communication has to be personalized. It can't be just a one-size-fits-all.
Right.
And that requires that you do digital. That requires that you do test and learn. And that's how you'll, get the kind of impact that we're looking for.
Right. Now, some people they try to find a balance between communicating about just information in general and then asking for a gift. Do you see a balance in communications, or have you found a magic number there?
I don't have a magic number, but I have more of a philosophy about it, and that is, we need to understand what they really care about.
Mm-hmm.
And so, anybody who's doing an outstanding job in digital fundraising is constantly testing messages to see what resonates.
Right.
And and unless you're doing that, you're probably not going to meet you're not going to get the kind of hit rate that you're looking for. I think going out infrequently and asking for money is a failure. Going out regularly and keeping people excited about your mission with new information, and then also asking for donations on a regular basis, but not on an every time basis, makes a lot more sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Every once in a while, I'll run into an organization and they send out a quarterly email newsletter, and that's their only communication piece. And I just think that's not quite frequent enough to keep people engaged and interested.
Well, people don't want to read that much either. So, a quick email, maybe with a video in it that's a very short video, or a relevant topic because they're interested in that topic because they responded to that recently, and referring to that specifically. I think this is when you're going to get a dialogue rather than just, there's another email from that organization. I think I won't click on that today.
Mm-hmm. So investing in that communications platform is really becoming an essential for nonprofits.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that ongoing.
All the bells and whistles of good direct response is critical, and good digital direct response is even more critical, because when you're thinking about any generation other than the boomers, you really have to be thinking about using digital.
Right.
And even boomers for that matter. Although I just saw some data today that at least the 70 plus boomers, so that's kind of the end of the boomers, I think, they're very responsive to direct mail. But after that, there's really we just must mix it in with digital.
Mm-hmm. That combination. I remember a few years ago, I was sitting in front of the TV and I had a magazine open in front of me, and the magazine had an ad for a printer cartridge, I think, and the TV had a advertisement for the same printer cartridge. I'm like, oh, wow, wait.
That's a coincidence.
Yeah. But it was...
maybe I should pay attention to this.
Yeah. But it was that communication.
I think you raised a good point. Multi-channel is the other thing. People see it in various media and they think, wow, this is pretty important. I guess I should respond to this.
Grabs your attention.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Lynn, I want to say thanks again for joining us. Before we close off, do you have any closing words of inspiration or encouragement for our listeners?
Yeah, I just would say that I spent my life for at least the last 20 years in advertising and marketing. And I fancy myself as an entrepreneur because in the agency business, you really have to constantly reinvent yourself and also come up with great new ideas for clients. And I am just so surprised now that I'm at MDA how I'm using every tool in the toolbox. And I just find it to be incredibly entrepreneurial. So I think my message to other leaders out there is, go for it. I mean, there just is big opportunity right now with so many companies interested in cause marketing. You have the opportunity to go in and really develop a campaign together that will meet your needs as well as theirs. And this is time for big creative. And we have a generation of millennials and others who are all about giving. So this is a big industry. I think bringing the for-profit expertise. So we run our nonprofits in a more disciplined way, using the newest tools and digital and communications. You can have an incredible impact, which is really, really exciting.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again, Lynn.
Thank you. This was really fun.
You're welcome. And thanks to all our listeners for everything you do to make the world a better place.
Thanks for listening to the Social Good Instigators podcast with Kirsten Bullock. If you like what you just heard, we hope you'll check out our prior episodes and that you'll pass along our web address, socialgoodinstigators.com, to your friends and colleagues in the social good sector.